It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do, you do. From the Dixie Line Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Thursday podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host John Riley, in the middle of these violent West Coast rainstorms. We're going to be here for the next hour or so on an unbelievably busy day, a tremendously busy week in the world of sports. This podcast is brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. If you've got projects, they've got materials, you want ideas, these people can be your best friends and your consultants. Fix it or build it. We guarantee you will enjoy it in 2025. If you work with Dixie Line, go to dixieline.com for all the details. John Riley, good afternoon. I came prepared. I am ready to talk all things NFL free agency. My head is about to fall off my shoulders. If you're a football fan, be prepared to join us because we're going to talk a ton of football. We got baseball. Spring training camps are starting to wrap up. We got the opening of the season next Tuesday. We got playoffs, Mountain West Conference tournament, all things hockey. Start of the Formula One race season. Yeah, we got a few topics on the table. How are you?
Busy much? I mean, the Hacksaw's Best 15 this morning was like this long with all the NFL transactions.
Yeah, so there's an absolute ton. Now, I warn you in advance with this podcast, and we're starting our 3rd year together. We do sports talk the way it should be done. A lot of hot topics on the table. And then, John, when we're done, we do what nobody else does. We give the fans an opportunity to jump on board, go live with us. How does Fans Forum work?
Okay, well, other podcasts do something like this, Hacksaw, but it's all good. It's all live chat. It's your chance to get involved. And, you know, if you want to be involved in Fans Forum, we already see Schickster and Alan and Chris have already jumped on board. So if you have a question or comment in the world of sports for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, just type it in on Facebook, X, or on YouTube. The X feed should be working today, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
If you're a sports fan, you have to check my website. The address is leehacksawhamilton.com. I write on it every day. It's their first thing in the morning. You might be an NFL fan. I guarantee you won't find a compilation of all the free agent deals this week like I put up on my website every day. So when we're done with the podcast, just punch it up and take a look. All sports, you can choose and pick what you want. You might be a football fan, just want to follow free agency. Follow the football page. You're into the baseball, what's happening, end of spring training, roster moves, injuries, etc. Go to the baseball page. Same thing with the NBA. Those of you want to join me on the hockey hotline, there's always headlines there. You're into auto racing, golf, you name it, I write about it. But you won't know about it till you check the website, leehacksawhamilton.com. I want you to join my insiders group. You can fill out the orange box on the homepage of my website. Join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You'll get emails every time we put something else up there. Want you to share. Tell everybody Hacksaw's back Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel because when you do that, you'll get the alerts. Like I put 5 different things up on the YouTube channel in the last couple of days. You'll get the alerts every time we put something new up there. And I need you to be part of my Hacksaw's Twitter All-Star team. It's on X. Just type in my name, @Hacksaw1090, @Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button because then when I put stuff up on X, and I do that a lot, you're going to get that information too. So we take this thing a lot of different directions. We do some dynamic, diverse things on social media. Want you to subscribe, want you to be part of it. And at the end of the day, because we do this out of the goodness of our heart and we do it for free, only thing we ask, you give us a thumbs up or you give us a 5-star rating because that helps us a great deal. We need to explode this thing even more. Did I cover all the things in your memo?
I think you did.
Okay, we're going a lot of different directions, and the story right now is all things National Football League. John, where do you want to start? It is free agent week, and I've never seen anything like this.
Well, like you say there, it's an historic week of signings and releases.
As of 12 noon today, just before we launched on today's podcast, 175 players have changed teams in 3 days, and there have been 6 different trades. There's 2 named quarterbacks left. There's approximately 5 named wide receivers still left on the open market. The market has been virtually picked clean in just 3+ days. There's probably another big trade coming. Trey Hendrickson of the Cincinnati Bengals, their sack artist, is evidently about to be traded. Cincinnati's asking for a volume of trade return. On the clock, waiting for some sort of decision, Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, Russell Wilson, the quarterback, waiting for receiver Cooper Kupp and a number of other receivers to make their decision. And then we find out what the price tag will be when San Francisco re-signs their quarterback, Brock Purdy. It has been an unbelievable first 3 days of transaction. John, just think about that. 175 players changed teams in 3 days.
Yeah, I imagine Roger Goodell's office is just getting a flood of messages like old school stock market guys on Wall Street.
Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing, the volume of player movement right out of the gate. Now, as it relates to topics on the table, we all have opinions. I do. He does. And I know you will on Fans Forum in the chat box. But where do you want to start? Let's start with the teams that we talk about and kind of we cover here in Southern California, John.
Well, with you, we got to start with the Chargers, of course.
Should I say the word surprised or should I say the word disappointed? They had $93 million in cap space, the Chargers did, when they started this process. And they've not signed anybody that changes the game. I'm really surprised that Joe Ortiz, with his reputation of knowing talent, spotting talent, was not more aggressive to get marquee, instant, what I call difference makers. Now, granted, the Chargers started this whole thing by releasing Joey Bosa. And then they got rid of the running back, Gus Edwards, both those guys, because of injuries. Bosa's cap figure was astronomical. They turned around and they re-signed Khalil Mack. 1 year, $18 million. So he took a pay cut. Now, they could have gone back. I think they should have tried to restructure down after they released Bosa and got him back on a 1-year rental at an affordable price to keep everything together in terms of the unique pass rush guys they have, but they didn't. And those guys are gone. Then, first day, they lose their big inside defensive tackle, Poona Ford, who had a remarkable season. That was a Ortiz acquisition. He went across the street to the Rams. That's a big blow. And then they lost one of their top athletic cover corners, Christian Fulton. He leaves, goes up the street to the Kansas City Chiefs within the division. So the Chargers took a lot of hits along the way. The positives, heavy-duty running back, Najee Harris. I mean, he's a banger, and he stays healthy, and he stays on the field. And I had 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons on a lot of carries with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would take Najee Harris over Gus Edwards, who has since departed. Dante Jackson, he was with Pittsburgh, he was with Carolina, and he did play a lot for the Steelers. But if your head coach Mike Tomlin doesn't want you in Pittsburgh, what does it say about you, the talent? Yet the Chargers signed Dante Jackson, cornerback. And then late on Wednesday night, they brought back Mike Williams. So they add Mike Williams, but yeah, he's big and he makes some catches down the field, but he has a real significant injury history. And again, the Steelers and Jets both had him, and they both let him go. And then they re-signed Brad Bozeman, journeyman center, one of the lowest rated centers in the entire National Football League. He was one of the problems they had in the interior of the offensive line, and they brought him back. Signed him a 2-year contract extension. So my disappointment is you had all this money. You should have made a pitch to get Bosa to stay in-house at a reduced fee like Khalil Mack stayed in-house. They tried to get 2 other offensive guards, could not sign them or did not sign them or weren't willing to pay the price to get them here. They missed out on 2 different centers they went after. They missed out on a tight end they wanted to sign who catches balls. So outside of Najee Harris, I don't know that they've done a hell of a lot to really improve this team around the quarterback, Justin Herbert. So right now, because they failed to address what I thought were the most critical things in the interior of the offensive line, even though they got a positive done with the running back, I gave him a letter grade of C. I don't understand the rationale when you had all that cap space. That's one man's opinion on the Bolts. Give me yours.
Yeah, it was weird seeing Mike Williams come back, and that's got to be kind of an awkward situation, when a guy comes back to a team. But my question to you is kind of a little bit, look at you checking for more updates all day. Looking at more broad-based here, there's just been a flurry of transactions. Do you think this is the new breed of general managers that are more willing to wheel and deal and maybe sort of cut mid-tier players thinking they can get an upgrade?
I think they're willing to cut high-priced players that they may have inherited that had bloated contracts. It to me, there's a boldness to the current-day general manager. They're going to make these deals, and in some cases, these clubs are taking hellacious salary cap hits with dead money that they have to carry forward. It's a different way of doing business right now. They're still signing guys to mega contracts, which means somewhere down the road, if you make that decision that this guy's not going to fulfill everything you wanted in the third and fourth year of the deal, you're going to dump him and you're going to take a cap hit. It's just really different. But when you've got teams that have guys with dead cap figures of 69 million or 92 million, or your club's got 86 million in dead cap space right now, that's really hard to believe. That's the way you should be doing business in the National Football League. But they're not done. Chargers can't be the end result because they haven't solved it. Now, granted, maybe they think they're going to solve some of it in the draft, but end of the day, there were so many proven players out there, and they didn't get any of the guys that I've been told, and I network with a lot of people. I was told they were chasing quality guards and centers. They didn't get any of them. They all went other places. So.
Well, it's competitive, I'd imagine. But so, yeah, talking about the draft a bit here, there's two parts to this. Number one is, where are the holes now? I mean, they're going to have to get another pass rusher. They still need help on the offensive line. They still need another. I mean, Mike Williams is nice, but he's not the kind of receiver we wanted. So what are they going to do? And then, oh, by the way, how are you living here with $93 million of cap space? It's not like you're going to go after any of the other free agents, and the rookies don't make as much. So they're going to go into the season with a big gap.
They started at 93, but for example, you take the 18 million Khalil Mack got off that 93.
Okay.
And then whatever they're paying Najee Harris.
So it's like half that or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, did they get difference makers outside of Najee Harris? No. And have they solved their interior offensive line problems? No. And now they don't have a Bosa and they don't have Poona Ford. And there's really nobody left on the open market to go get. Okay, that's all things Charger football. You're a Charger fan. Hey, we cover the NFL here like nobody else does. Jump into the Fans Forum chat box. Agree or disagree with me. Your theory on Charger football, regardless of where you are. From that team, we go to the next team that made news here in Southern California.
Yeah, it's great covering the NFL with Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Let's talk Rams here. Quarterback stays.
Matthew Stafford. That was the first domino that was going to fall. And I said when that happened, then other things would happen. And the Rams reached agreement on the contract extension and a restructured deal up to pay him that contract. The price tag, they got rid of Cooper Kupp. At the end of the day, Cooper Kupp, great story, worked really hard, made himself a fine player, had 3 years of phenomenal productivity, and then he got hurt. He's had injuries 3 straight seasons. His productivity has dropped, and his cap figure was $20 million this coming season. He's not going to pay that. I was a little bit surprised they didn't go back to him and ask him to take a big pay cut so he could stay there with Stafford and Puka and all that, but they never got to that point. They let him go. So Stafford stays, Kupp goes, but they were really active. Getting Devontae Adams at an affordable price for the next 2 years, big, rangy, deep threat receiver, does not have the injury history. That, to me, is a real positive for the Rams. Then they got the defensive tackle inside, and Poona Ford stole him from the Chargers. And then they went out and got a starting offensive center from the Chicago Bears. He can play. Coleman Shelton. They had a problem at center because Brian Allen retired a year and a half ago with injuries. They moved people around. They had a lot more injuries last year. This guy's rock solid. It's going to allow him to put Steven Avila back out to left guard, which is much better position for him. And I don't know that they got a lot of cap space left now by virtue of because they took a cap hit in releasing Cooper Kupp. But obviously the Rams, the acquisitions that they added, getting Devontae and getting the defensive tackle, significant. Les Snead, Sean McVay, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, smart guys over there. But Cooper Kupp hasn't been signed by anybody, right?
No, not yet.
So it's just so obvious that he should just, go to the Chargers. It's right across the hallway.
At what price tag?
Well, the Chargers have got a lot of cap space to spend, right? I mean,
but at what price tag? What is he going to demand? Is he going to demand 15 mil? I'm not paying Cooper Kupp 15 mil with his history of injury. 10 mil? That's a little pricey, especially when you got all the needs.
Well, what are your alternatives? I mean, all the other great receivers are off the board, right?
Yeah.
So who's left?
Draft.
Yeah. Okay.
But that means kids. That means another Quentin Johnston that you're walking, hoping you can teach, make him a good player. Tough call there. But I really like what the Rams did. Rams fan, that chat box is open in fans forum. You agree with me? This front office is pretty good. That head coach is pretty good. And these acquisitions, minimal number of acquisitions, pretty good. Let's talk Rams football. We go from that. Should I use the nickname now or should I wait? Nah, let's talk about the silver and bleak. I mean, the silver and black.
Raider Nation loves you, Hacksaw, so let it rip.
I'll tell you, I had such great expectations coming in the front door with Pete Carroll, with the new general manager, John Spytek, and the influence of Tom Brady. And here we are 3 days into free agency. And what we're talking more about are players who left the Raiders rather than players the Raiders acquired. To me, it's absolutely shocking. The Lakers lost 4 starters on defense. They wanted all 4 back. They didn't get the deals done. They let these guys get out on the open market, and they're gone. And you don't snap your fingers and replace Robert Spillane, the linebacker, Trev Mooring, the safety linebacker, Divine Diablo, the inside linebacker, or Nathan Hobbs, who I thought was maybe the best cover corner. You just don't replace those guys with a snap of the fingers. And they invest in these guys. These guys got more competitive and better over the last couple of years. And the Raiders lost all of them. Within a span of about 36 hours, they were all gone. They did sign Jeremy Shin, who was a starter from the Washington Commanders at safety. They signed Raheem Mostert, ex-Miami, ex-49er, heavy-duty running back. He's not a 1,000-yard guy. To me, the acquisitions they've made, they haven't made very many. There's no difference makers. And they lost 4 starters on the defense. And then it brings to the front of my mind, oh yeah, by the way, you traded for Geno Smith. And I'm thinking that's a 1-year rental. I'm not going to pay him $40 million. That's why Seattle got rid of him. And Geno Smith had 20 TDs, 15 interceptions, a couple of fumbles, and 50 sacks. And he had 3 wide receivers on his team to throw to. Raiders don't have any of that. And they have no running game. And I'm just saying, is Geno Smith the right quarterback? Or should Tom Brady have used his influence to work harder to maybe rent Aaron Rodgers for a year or 2? Now, maybe I'm jumping off the ledge here. Raider fans would be great, he's gone. Maybe I'm jumping off the ledge here. Maybe the reality is they're going to find a way to get Shadur Sanders. And maybe that will be the quarterback of the future. But at the end of the day, when you lose 4 defensive starters who are really the cornerstones outside of Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins, when you lose so much in the back 7, I don't know how you recover from that. I just thought that Pete Carroll and Tom Brady would have been a magnet to draw players in. I thought they're going to be proactive. I don't see it. John, response.
Well, first of all, I think those guys weren't getting it done. I mean, how many wins did the Raiders have last year? Like 4 or 5? It was
but that was with no running game, with shoddy quarterback performance. That's not on Nathan Hobbs and the guys on the defensive side.
But they're kind of like near rock bottom. They got to rebuild this thing, got to reinvent the thing. So you figure you bring in Tom Brady and, his smarts, and they got the new general manager from Tampa. I bet you they've got a short, medium, and long-term plan they're cooking up, And I would imagine the Geno Smith acquisition, you're right, he may not have anyone to throw to, but it might just be a bridge quarterback to have some NFL credibility in the quarterback position while this new Tom Brady plan kind of unfolds.
I thought it would have unfolded with more marquee NFL names that make you more competitive. Did you just indirectly, from reading between the lines, did you just indirectly say, shut up, sucker, and accept 4-13 this coming season because we're just going to start this rebuild process? I thought with Brady there, they would have been a magnet, no?
Well, yeah, he's still a magnet, but, they're not going to try to make some little tweaks along the edges of the roster. They're going to reinvent this thing.
That takes time.
Well, of course it takes time, but you can't, like you say, the Raiders always go for the shiny objects. You can't just do these one-off things each year and hope it transforms the organization. I know. I generally speaking have faith that they're finally doing it right, and so let's give Brady a chance. And I'm kind of curious if there is like a character profile that they look for when they pick these players besides their athleticism.
They didn't get veterans. Veterans mean experience. Veterans mean football smarts. They didn't get any of that. John, they started this thing with $107 million cap space, the most in the NFL. They didn't get a difference maker. And virtually all the names are now gone off the board, and you got Geno Smith as your quarterback. My God.
It's maybe another one step backward to take two steps forward. Maybe that's what's happening here.
I want to be alive when they get good. That's going to be a while.
Well, but 2 winning seasons in how long?
22 years.
Yeah, great.
Fans Forum chat box is open. Raider Nation, give me a response. We do sports talk the way it should be done. I give you all the facts. We express our opinions, and we give you the window to jump in. So, hey, we're covering the National Football League. So I want you to tell your friends right now. Text message everybody that, hey, Hacksaw's on, talking big-time NFL, football, free agency, etc. We got opinions. Where we take your opinion, your question, your statement in the Fans Forum chat box when we're done. Now, report card. We're 3 days in with virtually all the players off the board. John, go to the next topic you want to put up there.
Yeah, report card. I'd love to see you as a school teacher.
Oh, damn it. Why did you fail that test?
Sean Lee.
Free agent winners. Let's start with who I think has done well the first 3 days. New coach, Chicago. Bright young quarterback, didn't have a lot to work with, Caleb Williams. I thought the Bears had a really good couple of days in free agency. They traded for the Rams starting left guard, Jonah Jackson. They traded for Kansas City former Pro Bowl left guard, left tackle, Joe Thuney. And then they signed Drew Dolman, starting center, Atlanta Falcons. In a span of 1 day, they fixed their offensive line in front of Caleb Williams. Nice. I thought Chicago did very well. New England. They signed 8 free agents in the first day of free agency. And these are all Mike Vrabel personality type players, nice. Which means we're coming to work with a lunch pail and we're going to hit you. If we have to use the lunch pail and a shovel to hit you in the head, we will. They got Milton Williams, the really good young defensive tackle from Philadelphia. They got Carlton Davis, longtime cover corner, Tampa Bay, Detroit Lions. Robert Spillane, starting inside linebacker, very active. He came from the Raiders. Those are some of the marquee names. Like I said, they got 8. 6 of them were starters on other teams' defenses. So that's what Vrabel hauled into New England. They're probably not done. Buffalo didn't have a lot of cap space after they gave Josh Allen all the money on the Niagara Frontier. But yet, in a 12-hour span, they went and got Joey Bosa of the Chargers to be the other defensive end in a pass rush. And they got Josh Palmer, the big wide receiver who makes plays downfield, yards after catch. Got to keep him healthy. But that's 6'5" of, I think, proven commodity from the Chargers. If you're asking me in retrospect, if I'm the Chargers, I think I'd rather have the younger Josh Palmer than the 31-year-old Mike Williams, who's now got a history of injuries.
Good call.
Good call. Damn right, good call. Came from me. So that's where we are in Buffalo. They made 2 significant acquisitions. Denver put guys on a flight out of San Francisco. They got Dre Greenlaw, the linebacker from the 49ers. They got the young safety and special teams guy, Tala Hafanga from San Francisco. Those are 2 acquisitions of athletes who can run and play for the defense. At the last minute, they got Ev Ingram, pass-catching tight end, Jacksonville. Prior to that, with the New York Giants, can be productive in what Sean Payton is running. And they got Trent Sherfield, who is kind of lost in the mix of all the skill people they had in Minnesota. He's a pretty good young wide receiver, so they've added him to go with Courtney Sutton. I think Sean Payton had a really good free agent haul in Denver. In Kansas City, they changed a whole bunch of things. Now, they lost a bunch of players. I was a little surprised at how many guys defected from KC, but what they did was they turned around and changed the persona. They went out and they got Elijah Mitchell, tough guy, bigger body running back from San Francisco. He's going to be their heavy-duty guy to go with Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. He's been productive as a cameo appearance guy in San Francisco. Kansas City got him. They got Kristen Fulton, the starting cornerback who can run, very athletic. He comes from the Chargers. They got Jalen Moore, big young left tackle San Francisco had developed. He's the one that's going to try to solve the problems at left tackle in Kansas City. Now, they lost some people, which kind of surprised me. Justin Reed, strong safety, vacated. He went to New Orleans. Justin Watson, their third wide receiver groups, always productive when they threw the ball to him. He wound up going to Houston. Terrell Wharton, big inside wide body defensive tackle. He defected, and they lost D'Angelo Hopkins. He wound up going to the Washington Commanders. So they subtracted veterans. Wharton's not a veteran. Wharton's a really young player. Anyhow, they've changed that. I thought Kansas City did well. I thought Minnesota did really well. Now, they had needs. They went out and got 2 inside defensive tackles. I got Jonathan Allen, and he is a huge guy. Former high number 1 pick, made a lot of money, played a lot for the Washington Commanders. They got Javon Hargrove. He had been hurt in San Francisco before getting hurt. He was a pretty pricey free agent acquisition, but the Vikings passed him on the physical. So they got 2 inside defensive tackles, and then they went and got offensive line protection for their quarterback. We're not sure who their quarterback's going to be right now, but they got Ryan Kelly, the Pro Bowl center from Indianapolis, and they got Will Friars, big offensive guard from Indianapolis. Minnesota, I thought did a good job. Green Bay didn't have a lot of cap space, but they went to San Francisco, and they got Aaron Banks, very good guard, and they're the ones that took the Raider cornerback Nathan Hobbs. So those are hot names. Those are the teams I think had the best week so far in NFL free agency, and they all had critical needs, and they filled them. So, John, I threw a lot of names on the board. You should have come prepared. Where's your list?
You got the detailed. I don't know. You must have made great crib notes when you were like in high school.
This is my cheat sheet. I do this for every club, all their acquisitions, and I have another page that has all the defections, club by club. So this is my cheat sheet. John, you can't do this just off the top of your, well, you probably can.
This is amazing. It's like a 4-point font size. I mean, I can't believe you can write that small.
Well, some of us are pretty good.
Yeah, and it's legible. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay. So anyhow, John, I threw a lot of names at you. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I like the fact that the young quarterbacks in Chicago and Boston are going to have an offensive line to protect them, and we can see what these guys can be. But the remaining 5 teams are all playoff teams. So is this a case of the smart GMs just outsmarting everybody, or is it a case of they're already playoff teams? They have less holes to fill, and they were successful in filling the hole.
Probably a combination of both things. One, they know their needs, and they use free agency to fill the odd need they have in Buffalo. Then the flip side of that is that player, Joey Bosa, he wants a chance at a Super Bowl, and he's made a lot of money. So I'll go to Buffalo on a reduced contract. He wound up signing for $12 million, which is a far cry from the $26 million he made with the Chargers. But what you got is a GM says, okay, I'll slot 1 or 2 free agents that can fill these 2 holes on my very good team. And the player says, I want to finish my career with a winner. So that's how you connect the dots to some of those guys.
Nice. This is like Seau and Harrison going there.
Exactly. Going to New England back in the day.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are the ones that did really well. But because there are 32 teams in the league, there's some people, John, that didn't do very well.
Yeah, you got the big red Sharpie out. You're ready to give him an F.
San Francisco, this is really painful. There's a lot of people that are calling for the head of John Lynch, general manager. I don't think that's correct. John Lynch has been victimized by what success in the NFL is all about. John, I draft you. I draft 6 teammates. We hit on all these guys, including you. You get good, our team gets good. After your first contract's expired, we got to pay you to keep this good team intact. We do that, the numbers and the payroll go up. By the time we get to the end of your second contract, you got age, you might be some injury on some of your teammates, and suddenly we got salary cap problems. We can't re-sign everybody again. Now we're going to move on. John Lynch moved on from 10 players off the 49ers team. Started with the trade of Deebo Samuel, and it has just kind of continued across the board. Samuel, Greenlaw, Hufnanga, Shavarius Ward, Leonard Floyd, Hargrave, all those guys gone from San Francisco, and he still must re-sign Brock Purdy. So it's been a painful week in San Francisco. They've signed a few guys, but nothing of real significance. It's a little bit of transition, but as John Lynn said at a really heated press conference, we had to get younger, we had to get more athletic, and I had to find breathing room with the salary cap. So we'll see how this works now, because there will be new players coming in, and they've got a lot of draft picks, so maybe the young guys coming in for Kyle Shanahan to coach. So that was kind of a tough week in San Francisco, but quit bitching. You've had really good football for a long period of time, and you take my philosophy of how this NFL thing works.
There are ebbs and flows.
Quit bitching. Everybody goes through these
Yeah, exactly.
cycles.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, Eagles. Now, I am surprised about this. I don't understand. Harry Roseman's done such a great job stockpiling talent. I just do not understand in Philadelphia situation why you don't try to sign and retain, even if it's at higher price, Milton Williams, the defensive tackle, who obviously vacated, Josh Sweet, the rush guy who really came last year. He wound up going to Arizona as a free agent. Did not keep Darius Slay, Pro Bowl safety, veteran, kind of emotional leader in the secondary. He wound up going to Pittsburgh on a one-year deal, and they traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson to Houston. Little surprised at the number of name guys who really contributed. A couple of them were younger guys at the end of the first contracts. Why Philadelphia didn't keep any of them. In Seattle, this is going to be painful. They've not had bad football for a long time. They're probably going to have some bad football going forward. I understand they got Sam Darnold, and I understand he resurrected his career with the Vikings under Kevin O'Connell, but he doesn't have anything around him. This is going to be like Sam Darnold playing with the New York Jets, who had no talent. You know, they got rid of their top two veteran wide receivers. They have no running game by virtue of injuries. I think they got a porous offensive line. I just don't know what Sam Darnold's going to have to play around him in Seattle. To me, they're facing a painful rebuild. New York Jets. I guess I don't understand giving all that money to Justin Fields when Pittsburgh and Chicago didn't believe in him any longer to keep him. And the Jets obviously got rid of Aaron Rodgers, and they got rid of Dante Adams, and they got rid of Alan Lazard. They're kind of like back to square one. And they've signed some free agents. Aaron Glenn must see something in these guys. There's no marquee names in any of the free agents the Jets had. Browns, salary cap hell. With all the smart guys in the Browns front office, starting with the coach Kevin Stefanski, who a lot of people respect, all the way up the chain of command to Paul DePodesta, the former baseball executive who now kind of runs the business side of Browns football. How you could just keep doing what you're doing with the salary cap and keep pushing things down road and creating more monster salary cap problems for you. But they got this mess with Deshaun Watson, and now they had to restructure the contract, and they had to bribe Myles Garrett to stay there. They didn't sign anybody of note. They're a mess in the offensive line. And they got all these supposed smart guys in the Browns organization. Just a freaking disaster. Thank God the Cleveland Cavaliers are 55-10 and giving the fans in Northeast Ohio something to look forward to.
They cleaned up the Cuyamaca. Was it not the Cuyamaca River? The Cuyahoga River. They used to catch on fire.
I saw that catch on fire when I was in college in the 1960s. Anyhow, Cleveland, what a disaster. And then Jacksonville, new broom sweeps claim. So they bring in all these new people to run the Jacksonville Jaguars. They signed 9 free agents right out of the gate in about a day and a half. They were as active as Vrabel was up in New England. They signed 9 free agents. Not one of them is a difference maker. And you got rid of guys. You lost tackles. You lost wide receivers. You traded a wide receiver. Lost your tight end. You got 9 guys who don't make a difference. And you got Trevor Lawrence has to be the quarterback of a roster now that doesn't have what it had before, at least on the offensive side of football. So those are the ones that, John, I didn't think did very well the first week of NFL free agency. You're not going to weep on this thing. I mean, I know you're kind of a closet 49er fan.
Well, I am, yeah.
You're going to start weeping here? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I readopted the Niners after the Chargers left San Diego. You know, it's my childhood team. And, yeah, there are ebbs and flows. I went through that as a Niners fan in the mid-'70s when they were horrible, and they traded away Simpson. They traded for Simpson and Plunkett, and they ended up giving away the farm. But then the 80s were great. But I remember this kind of goes to the point of what John Lynch is doing, getting rid of guys, getting rid of veterans. And I remember in the 80s, they got rid of, or they let Ronnie Lott go, and he ended up signing with, I think, the Raiders.
Yeah.
And I was just floored by that. I couldn't believe they let Ronnie Lott go, but they always said they want to let him go 1 year too early rather than 1 year too late.
Yep.
So I think that's what's happening here.
That's what's going on in San Francisco. And as you'd say, ebbs and flows. It's just the reality of what the NFL business is. If you hit on players and they get really good, got to pay them when a second contract comes up. But then you get all these stars that are mounting together. That's why you have 13 and 14 win seasons, because you got a composite, really good football team, but they're all knocking down big money. And somewhere that all counts against the cap. The credit card bill comes due. So,
but some teams can't figure it out, like the Browns. Now, first of all, I mean, is Deshaun Watson's career over? Is he coming back from any of this? And
they're stuck with him.
Well, yeah, they are stuck with him. And I saw that DTR got traded for some other backup quarterback. What's the quarterback breakdown in Cleveland?
Kelly Pickett.
That's the one.
Came from Philadelphia. Now, he had been in Pittsburgh. So he gets traded for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the backup, who goes to the Eagles. I don't know if Pickett envisions himself as a starting quarterback, but his track record's not been real good, real strong, real difference maker. So he's the quarterback du jour right now.
Yeah, but yeah, he's a backup.
He's just a guy.
Yeah, but Deshaun Watson is the guy. He's going to start, right?
No, he can't play this year because of the Achilles tendon rupture.
That's right. I'm so distracted by all of his other off-the-field problems. What a mess that is.
And they've renegotiated him 3 times. And that's go back to my comment. You got Paul DePodesta and all these smart guys in Cleveland. How the hell could you have a player that you keep pushing the contract back? He's got a cap figure now of $92 million. You can't cut him. And you have to pay him. They owe him 2 more years.
Well, wasn't Paul DePodesta like part of the whole Moneyball thing with the A's back?
And he was here with the Padres, and he was with the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And then he went to the NFL, and Cleveland, they are capped out till kingdom come.
Really? What a disaster.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got the whole Myles Garrett thing, and I hate this. I'm not going to stay and rebuild. Trade me right now. And then they throw $40 million in front. Okay, I'll stay.
Money, man.
Take the money. I'll stay and suffer. Jeez. Okay, that's all things National Football League. I have done my job as the voice of the Chargers and the Seahawks, and I cover the National Football League every day. We want you in the Fans Forum chat box now. We put a lot of different topics on the table. We're going to go to your comments when we're done. So I'm looking for football fans, new people, jump on board, identify yourself as a first-timer, and we will go to the Fans Forum chat box at the end of this podcast. Hacksaw's Headlines, our Thursday show, brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. John, does not matter what the project is, painting walls, putting up closets, new shelving, flooring, adding a room, man cave. You name it, these people will help you. Go ahead. You did a lot of business with Dixie Line before I showed up at Dixie Line.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, Dixie Line is, I'll just run the video here. This is a lot of the work they do for contractors and home builders. They provide all the lumber. And by the way, the lumber industry is going through some interesting changes now with the tariffs in Canada and everything. But Dixie Line's got it all figured out for you. All the building materials you need to do a remodel. You want to build a granny flat in your backyard. You got some ideas and things you want to do at your home. Consultants will help you, but also they help the homeowner with remodels, kitchen and bath remodel, countertops, cabinets, also, with decking and doors and windows. So the Dixie Line team has you covered. Been in San Diego for over 100 years, Hacksaw.
Bottom line, regardless of what the project is, they got materials. If you're looking for ideas, they'd be glad to give you some help as your consultant. And don't forget to go to the new Dixie Line showcase part of one of their stores, and that is in
the Design Studio in Solana Beach.
And go to the website, dixieline.com. Just see all the things they've got to offer. Build it, fix it. You will enjoy it in 2025, thanks to Dixie Line Lumber. We are at halftime. When we're done with topics on the table, we're going to try to buzz through Fans Forum, but we're looking for first-timers to join us. Fans Forum chat box. How does it work, John?
Okay. All the guys are piling. By the way, Tyler is like, he's going to get it. He looks like he's a first timer. He's breaking down your analysis of each team in free agency, which is great. And I see here, who else? The O-Siders and Anthony and Greg and Alan and XX Revolution and Blake and Callan and Chris and Schickster. So we're going to try to get you all involved. But jump on board, type in your comment or question for Hacksaw on the live chat on Facebook, X, or YouTube, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
And to remind you, if you like sports, I write sports every day. It's on my website. Very easy to remember, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. It's there first thing every morning. when we're done with the podcast, just go check it out. You won't believe how much information is there. If all you care about is the NFL, just read the NFL page. It's all written. If you're a big sports fan on everything, I touch on every topic on the table. That is on my website, leehacksawhamilton.com.
We also do that on the YouTube channel, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have playlists for every one of the different sports. So to your point, yeah, if you just want baseball, you can go right to all the baseball video.
So check my website out. Cycle it back every morning. You'll be pretty pleased with the volume of information that I present. Also want you to share. Tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. on this podcast. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe, you will then get the alerts every time we put something up on the YouTube channel. We do that almost every day of the week.
Yes.
And I want you to be part of my social media team. Hacksaw1090 is my handle. Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button on Twitter so you'll be able to join my social media team. John, we got a lot to talk about second half. We're going to talk some baseball.
Talking baseball, talking about the Padres, and this is kind of weird what's going on with them.
Well, we got a team that's not playing very well here at the end of spring training. In fact, I don't think they've had a good Cactus League at all. They're 5-13-1, just not hitting at all. They dragged a lot of guys here with the hope that we're going to find some answers to left field, behind home plate, and to fill out the whole bench bunch, which has drastically changed. Not a lot of guys have had good springs, and now we're just 10 days away. The other story is off the field. John Seidler took over yesterday as the point person in place of the late Peter Seidler, who passed away in November 2023. In a mini press briefing, he talked about the Padres. The trajectory of this franchise under his leadership will be the same. It's still get to the World Series. He said, my brother Peter had a vision. We're keeping that vision intact. He was indeed beloved. He says, our priorities for Padre baseball are obviously the vision of the Fall Classic, what we do at Petco Park, and the Padres community involvement. Said he was very saddened at the family lawsuit over the struggles over who should be the point person. Meanwhile, on the field, this is kind of hard to believe we're this deep into spring training. Manny Machado's hitting 111. Jake Cronenworth is hitting 200. The combined catchers, all of them, are hitting just 118. Eggy Rosario is hitting just 200. Jason Hayward is hitting just 118. There's a lot of guys haven't done very well in the spring that we thought the Padres were going to pick to be part of the makeup of this roster. Now, Gavin Sheets has hit 5 home runs in 4 days. That's pretty impressive. He's pushed his average up to 280. I think he's made the team. Whether he's made the team as a bench player or made the team as maybe a left fielder, part-time first baseman remains to be seen. Terso Ornelas is hitting 344, deserves to be their opening day. The surprise is the career 4A player that the Cleveland Guardians and the Yankees had. Oscar Gonzalez is still hitting 343. A little bit concerned about Robert Suarez. His ERA is over 19. He has had 3 bad outings in 5 outings this spring. I hope there's nothing physically wrong with him, but it's hard to believe an ace closer like this would be so poor right now. And obviously, I think there has to be concern that Matt Waldron has not become the consistent guy they hoped he would be, considering the emphasis he's put on developing the knuckleball. So those are all things Padres with now new leadership. But to me, some questions that I'm really concerned about with 10 days to go in spring training. John?
Yeah, Bobby Fastball's got some trouble. And it seems like he throws that fastball. It's heat, but it's kind of telegraphed. You kind of know it's coming. And I saw that he was working on some kind of a slider that looked a little different, a little bit different. It wasn't a changeup. It was breaking the other way. So there's hope there. Imagine if this Gavin Sheets thing, let's just pretend for a moment that he's the surprise of the year, the way Profar was last year. He could be your first baseman in DH and kind of rotate around there with a rise. And then, that could make a difference. I mean, the interview that I saw with Gavin Sheets is he goes, obviously there's superstars on this team and I'm not one of those guys, but I'm a dude like on the bottom third of the order where I can be productive and get on base and then be, the guys that can score when the superstars come around.
Well, he's got a history of hitting some long balls with the White Sox. He has a history of striking out a lot. So only time will tell, but I think he deserves now to be on the opening day roster, and it'll be up to Mike Schilt to figure out where he plays. Part-time player, platoon player. Is he a candidate to actually go to left field? But when you're hitting the amount of home runs he's hit, even though it's spring training pitching, and you've done that on a consistent basis, and you drag your batting average up to 280, deserves consideration to maybe be an everyday player and just see where he goes. The only concern is he was an everyday player with the White Sox and he couldn't stay in the major leagues.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if he has a chance. The other part you're talking about, the catchers, nobody's hitting. Apparently, the only catchers that had an extra base hit is Ethan Salas. He had a double.
Yeah.
So sometimes I wonder if they're going to say, what the hell? Let's just go with the kid. But obviously that would be a bad move. I want to go back to the new owner, John Seidler. We're just kind of getting to know him.
New point person.
Yeah. And he's he's got a little bit of a different personality. He's a little more of a private, introverted guy. But in the interview, he made numerous references to the family's history with the O'Malley family.
Mm-hmm.
Help me understand this. When the Dodgers were in Brooklyn, were the Seidlers involved then, or was it just O'Malley? And then O'Malley brought him to L.A., but how did the Seidlers get in the mix, or is that like a married name that got in the mix?
They married into the family of Peter O'Malley, the son who replaced the late Walter O'Malley, who moved the franchise. Walter was in Brooklyn, brought it to L.A. As he aged and taught Peter O'Malley the business. He passed on, Peter ran it, and then the Seidler family got involved through marriages with all the different kids that are on the O'Malley family tree.
Some strategic marriages.
Yes. So that's where
that explains it all. But some of the Padre fans on Twitter were like a little bit, put off by some of the Dodger references from John Seidler. But I think it's just baked into the way he was brought up, because he was saying he was slow to embrace the beat LA chant. But, good on them. Hopefully they got this whole thing figured out. They got a point person. It's Seidler. It's the same vision. Now they just got to manage that Shield Seidler, distraction lawsuit, and then we're back to smooth sailing.
Well, I wouldn't say smooth sailing when your team is 5-13-1 this late in the Cactus League and people are sales pitching. We might be a World Series contender again. Yeah, not a good spring.
And to your point though, Manny and Jake, they're slow starters and they can go in droughts for a while. Let's hope they figure it out.
Okay, that's all things Padre baseball. You're invited to jump on board if you have a different opinion or if you agree with me that we ought to be talking about this problem. We go from that to the team that's no longer here because they're there. They're in Tokyo, in Japan.
Yeah, Tokyo. The Dodgers are there, and I know they're not taking the new Korean infielder.
Okay, Dodger headlines. They landed in Tokyo. They have 2 exhibition games on the weekend against Japanese all-star teams, and they open the season next Tuesday. I am coming over. I am bringing glazed donuts. You will supply the coffee. By the way, the game starts at 3 a.m. our time.
3 a.m.
Dodgers, Cubs, Tuesday morning. It will be on Fox.
Interesting.
So we'll have breakfast watching breaking balls from Japan.
All right. Yeah. This is like, breakfast at Wimbledon.
3 a.m. So the Dodgers are ready. Yamamoto completed the Cactus League with a 1.90 ERA, opening day starter. Hiroki Sasaki, 7 shutout innings in 2 starts. He will pitch in Game 2 for the Dodgers. A bit of a surprise, but this had been discussed. I brought this up a week ago. Hye-seung Kim, the Korean second baseman, Gold Glove guy, sent to AAA Oklahoma City, did not make the trip. Hit only 207. He was really overwhelmed with fastballs. They're trying to change his batting stance and his mechanics. He starts at AAA, but the rest of the roster looks ready. Haven't decided what they're doing in the outfield. Is it Tommy Edman in center field? Probably, because James Outman and Andy Padres have been very inconsistent swinging the bat. But both those guys are on the opening day roster, at least as of now. So that's the update with the Dodgers. They're good to go. Opening day baseball. On we go. We start playing for real Tuesday at 3 o'clock Pacific time in the morning.
You just going to roll down to Einstein Brothers? Are they going to be open at 3 in the morning?
I'm going to pick it up on the way home.
Yeah, exactly. And then kind of keep it. Yeah. The Dodgers. Here we go. Going to Korea, going to Japan, 2nd year in a row. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see Hiroki Sasaki getting his first major league start in Tokyo. I think he's the 2nd day pitcher. So is he the real deal? I think we're going to find out,
Nobody hit him in spring training.
Yeah.
Nobody.
He was electric.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And it's bedlam over there. The Japanese media is gone crazy because the Cubs have Shoto Imanaga and they got Suzuki, the young outfielder, Japanese heritage. And the Dodgers bring Ohtani, and then they bring Yash, and then they bring Roki.
It's like Beatlemania.
Oh, exactly. It's just
the girls are running down the street.
They're just going absolutely crazy at the Tokyo Dome. So it's going to be fun to watch, and we'll see. Next topic on the table in baseball.
Baseball, yeah. It's interesting news here for the Yankees and the Rays.
Well, we got bad news in a couple of places, all of them on the Eastern Seaboard and Grapefruit Circuit. I don't know how the Yankees survived this. They lose Garrett Cole. He has a second Tommy John surgery. This one was a brace surgery, but he's still out for the rest of the season. This is just a wear and tear factor. I mean, Garrett Cole has put together 4 or 5 spectacular statistical years, and now he's gone. The bigger question is, does this sink the Yankees? And I think it really does, because not only don't they have him, they don't have Luis Gil, the rookie of the year last season. He's out for at least 3 months with a lat shoulder injury. Thank goodness they signed Max Fried. He now becomes the number 1 guy on the staff. But the rest of the staff, it's Carlos Rodon, it's Clark Schmidt recovering from surgery, and they just signed ex-Cleveland pitcher Carlos Carrasco. Yankees suddenly are just not the same Yankees. And there is no Giancarlo Stanton. They don't know if he's going to play at all this year. He's facing double elbow surgery. And there is no Juan Soto. So it's like Aaron Judge against the world. The Yankees, to me, are in big trouble. And they've talked to a number of people about potential trade. And I get the sense from the baseball people that I network with that they've been told you're not going to be allowed to make a trade. Their payroll's at $304 million already. And I think Hal Steinbrenner has told Brian Cashman, I'm not going to let you make a trade for Luis Castillo of Seattle. I know you're interested in either Eduardo Rodriguez or Jordan Montgomery if Arizona would pay a chunk of the salary. We're not going to take on that other salary. And they talked to Miami about Sandy Alcantara. He's recovering from surgery and it's just been lightning, but the price tag to get him, he's got an affordable contract. You have to give up the farm system with the Miami Marlins. So suddenly, Brian Cashman's really got a problem on his hands because this thing is going to sink in New York Harbor unless he can go find more pitching. And Hal Steinbrenner says, no, the answer's got to come from within the farm system. They don't have, I don't think they got guys ready. So Yankees are in trouble. Baseball's got this trouble spot has resurfaced in Tampa Bay, the aftermath of the hurricane and all that. Stuart Sternberg last night backed out of paying his share for the new baseball stadium that was about to be financed in St. Petersburg on the other side of the bridge. It's been delayed for a full year because of the hurricane damage, Tropicana Field, the infrastructure they have to fix in Tampa and on the SUNCOAST. And part of the deal, because it was delayed another year, was the Rays would have to pay for cost overruns. And when it's delayed, cost overruns go up, including the steel crisis and tariffs. He backed out of the deal. He said, I can't do this. And I'm not going to put myself on the hook for another $900 million of cost delays and overruns. They're going to play at Legends Field, the Yankees Class A Farm Club. Tampa, St. Pete will fix for repairs at Tropicana Field. They're going to play there a couple more years, but they have no stadium solution. Baseball's furious at Sternberg for backing out. Baseball owners want him out as the owner. There's a fear that he's going to try to move the franchise maybe to Montreal or Nashville or Portland. It's just a real mess. And Rob Manfred's got his hands full because he wants to stay in the Suncoast market. He still thinks it's a good baseball market, even though they average only 16,000 fans per game. But that's been a bad stadium situation. So Yankees got problems. Man, they got problems in Tampa.
You know, when you were going through the whole Yankee thing, I just had in my mind the episode on Seinfeld where Frank Costanza was yelling at George Steinbrenner, like, why did you trade Jay Buhner? You know, it's just, it was a great episode, by the way. But anyways, you would think the Yankees have a pretty good farm system, right? I mean, don't they have any young kids coming up? I mean, rather than going, even if you wanted to spend the money, would you spend it to trade for Jordan Montgomery? I don't think I would.
No, I'm not sure I want Montgomery nor Eduardo Rodriguez. I would take a run on Luis Castillo, but now Seattle's got injury problems. Seattle's got 5 starters established, but one of them's on the DL, so now it's 4.
But Seattle has no hitting, right?
Exactly.
So they got to do something. And as far as the Rays are concerned, I just move, you know, there's so many other cities that would probably, I mean, I hate to say it, but taxpayers would probably build them a stadium all the way, 100%, you know, if they were to go to Portland or some of these other cities. That's how desperate they are. So if you don't want to put another $900 million on your hook, maybe he moves.
Would baseball let him move? Big question. It's an owner's vote. It's not Sternberg saying, I'm moving. It's got to be approved.
By what, like 3/4 of them, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you can make a case. I mean, he's been trying to work this deal in Tampa forever, you know, and then he gets cursed by the hurricane that blew the roof off.
Okay, all things baseball, feel free to jump on board. You want to talk about the Yankees situation, Tampa Bay Rays situation. We go from baseball, we're shooting three-point shots in basketball.
Yeah, the Mountain West Conference Tournament, and this is huge, Lee. Looking forward to it.
San Diego State opens against Boise State mid-afternoon. Aztecs should beat these guys. A burning question, does Magoon Guath play? He practiced. He did a walkthrough. He's wearing a heavy knee brace, which means there's a mental hurdle for him to have to work through with this thing dragging on his leg and his ability. If I go up to block a shot and I come down, what's that going to feel like? I don't think they need Guath against Boise, but if they get to the second round and they have to play Colorado State or they have to play Utah State, they're going to need Guath. The bigger question for the Aztecs is Guath and Miles Bird both indicating they will file for the NBA draft and they want to go through the evaluation. All honesty, these are really good kids. They're not complete players. These two kids need to stay in school. San Diego State obviously needs to have them stay in school and be part of this program next season because they're going to return some veteran guards and they got all the young guys that are learning on the job. Somebody's giving these kids bad advice. Miles Bird's not ready to be an NBA player, and Guath is miles away from being ready. Another year under Brian Dutcher, they will continue to bulk up physically and they'll continue to grow mentally about what the next level would be all about. Fascinated to see what the Aztecs do. And by the way, speaking of the Aztecs, how about a salute to the Lady Aztecs?
Hey,
triple overtime last night. They
something.
beat Wyoming, and that had to be hard to play because they beat top seed Vegas the night before. So they pulled off two really rugged wins. Wyoming was big and physical, not athletic, but they kept hitting three-point shots. San Diego State beat them on the boards, beat them with turnovers in the defense, and then made some critical put it on the floor, go to the hole baskets in overtime. But they went triple overtime, and San Diego State's Lady Aztecs are going to the NCAA tournament with a bunch of people that have really come together under Stacey Houston. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, Justin Hudson's happy.
Yes.
And his wife just won a championship.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. Stacey did a great job.
What do you think about Bird? What do you think about Guath?
Well, first of all, they need Guath today. I mean, the game's going to start here pretty shortly. I saw that New Mexico beat San Jose State, which we kind of expected. So that's who the Aztecs would potentially play. But when they've played Boise State, they beat them handily. But I think Guath played in both of those games. They've got bigs. They like to drive in the lane, and Guath is just the defensive player of the year. And if you don't have him, things could go sideways because Boise is fighting for their NCAA life. I mean, they've got to really go deep in this tournament if they have any chance of an at-large.
I just don't think you can take the risk. If he doesn't look like he's ready and he's hardly had any practice time, how can you play him? And he's got a heavy knee brace he's got to adjust to, and he has the uncertainty about what it's going to feel like to plant and cut.
Well, I heard he was suited up.
Yes.
He's got as opposed to before, he was just in sweatpants. So he could play. I think they're hopeful he's going to play. I think he wants to play. But, it's interesting because this tournament, you don't need to play Guath for 38 minutes, because you kind of have to, preserve some of your bench guy, or, so you can play 3 days in a row. So maybe your starters only go 20 minutes. Maybe Guath only needs to go 12 today.
You'd run the risk. Okay. What's your response to my theory about these two kids need to stay here and play rather than reach for something they're not ready for?
Well, first of all, I want them to be as successful as they can. And I really like that message from Brian Dutcher because, as fans, we're worried like, oh my God, they're going to leave and they're going to go to the NBA and they're going to fail, or they're going to transfer to Texas Tech, take the NIL money, but Dutcher just says, we want what's best for these kids. We're going to prepare them to be as successful as they can. And some will move on to portal. Some will go in the draft. I agree with you. I don't think either one of these guys is ready yet, but I think they will be. They're on the right track to go play in the NBA, but why not just go let them do the workout? If they get invited to the combine, why not? Just go for it and see what happens. Worst case, they give you some good input on the things you got to, improve on your game.
Best case is they come back and play another year.
Well, yeah, but you know what? I thought that Kawhi should have stayed for his third year, and boy, was I wrong. So, who knows?
Concur. Okay. All things basketball, fans forum chat box is open. Sunday's going to be kind of cool. Here we go.
Yeah. The selection Sunday is cool. I enjoy it.
I have never seen this in a long time. I don't think there's anybody walking down this hallway, anybody walking out in the street, anybody sitting next to you in a bar can tell you who is the favorite in the NCAA tournament as we get ready for Selection Sunday in March Madness. We've had 8 different teams that have been ranked number 1 this college basketball season. They kept knocking each other off. And now we got an asterisk. Duke, Cooper Flagg, who's done everything, will be the player of the year, goes down with an ankle injury last night in the ACC tournament.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I don't think he plays in the remainder of the ACC tournament. And again, ankles take time to heal. What will he be like by next Thursday when March Madness begins? So suddenly, and Duke, I think most people, the opinion, hottest team in college basketball right now. Houston's really good. I can't believe San Diego State beat these guys, but Houston's right there. And they got veterans. C.J. Cryer and Emmanuel Sharp are really good veteran basketball players for what they're running, the University of Houston. Auburn's got maybe the best big man in the country. He's not getting a lot of national recognition, Joni Broom.
Mm-hmm.
And they've also got the ex-Aztec, Chad Baker-Mazara.
Troublemaker.
Well, he's feisty and he creates a lot of situations for himself. But they played pretty well, and that's why Auburn is upper echelon. Florida's got a great big man in Will Clayton. Alabama might have the best guard in the country outside of Cooper Flagg. His name is Max Sears. And he's a third-year starter. He's been in college 5 years and stayed. And they got a grinder of a forward, Grant Nelson, so Bama's really good. And the mystery team, to me, I don't think I'd want to play them because they're kind of been in a bunch of rock fights this year, and they're 27-4. Rick Pitino's St. John's Red Flash. And they're led by R.J. Luis, a big guy, Zuby Ejiofor, and they got Pitino's history and experience and intelligence. I can't tell you who's number 1 in the country because those are all almost even Steven teams. It's only one win difference between where Duke is with 28. All the other guys have 27. This is going to be a cool tournament.
It's always a cool tournament. And you know, the World Cup is the best sporting event in sports, but this is a close number 2. This is like 1A. And I just love everything about it. Now, Selection Sunday, remember, it was about 10, 15 years ago, they started to do the thing where the players were in the auditorium and they were all watching it together. And I like that. You know, you could see the raw emotion to getting in. But it's gotten to be a little bit cliche. And now they have that Selection Sunday show. Don't they stretch that over like 2 hours? I mean, I remember
they cut it back last
they
year.
cut it back. Yeah, that's what it was. Because I remember that 2-hour show was like, okay, come on, guys, just roll out the
Show me the boards.
Exactly. But it's going to be great. UCSD, if all goes well in the Big West tournament, they're going to be on the map there as well. Could have 2 San Diego teams in March Madness. This is a good time to be a basketball fan.
Yeah, they're both the 10th or 11th bubble. I don't know what would happen if they both wound up going to Dayton to play in the play-in games.
Oh, like against each other?
Well, against somebody.
That would be like the San Diego sports curse striking again.
Okay, that's where we are, college basketball. Last topic on the table. We're going to run around real quick here, John.
Yeah, the high-speed sports wire. Tiger Woods at the top.
Yeah, let's talk about Tiger Woods. This is catastrophic. He tears his Achilles tendon in a practice round last week. He was trying to get ready, not for the TPC, which is underway right now at Pontevedra, but he was trying to get ready for the Masters. He's gone. It's his 11th surgery, either on his back, his legs, or his feet. Torn Achilles tendon, Tiger Woods. Big weekend auto racing. Formula One kicks off the season. Australian Open in Melbourne. You got to watch the Australian Grand Prix. There are so many storylines. Sir Lewis Hamilton, first drive with Team Ferrari, won 105 races with Team Mercedes, jump ship. They think they're going to be good, but he's going to be wearing red for the first time in his career. That bears watching. You got Team Mercedes replacing Lewis Hamilton with an 18-year-old Euro who's come up through the system and got his license. His name is Kimi Antonelli. At age 18, he's going to be on the course with all these legends.
That his racing license or his driver's license?
Probably both at the same time. Third storyline is Team Red Bull. This stuff just doesn't end. Max Verstappen, the drama. I mean, he won the points championship last year. He's been the dominant driver for 2.5 years. Constant criticism, unhappiness. He sounds off in Melbourne. We don't have a chance to win. We've had a terrible offseason. And he's in the final year of his contract. Just as Max Verstappen drama with Team Red Bull just continues. And then there's Team McLaren, and that's led by the bright young driver Lando Norris, who really had a great second half of the season. A lot of people say, will they keep this up? Was that a fluke because Verstappen and Red Bull fell apart? Lando Norris says at the podium, we have arrived. So Formula One, don't miss Australian Grand Prix on the weekend. PGA LIV, the latest on the Pro Golf Tour. Jay Monahan, the commissioner, says our negotiations continue with LIV in Saudi Arabia. There are ebbs, there are flows, and then he drops the word obstacles. And yeah, that's still there. He says we're trying to figure out what the Euro Tour of this merger should look like and whether we incorporate team play and the LIV format in the European tournaments. We don't want them part of the PGA Tour. And then you got the golfers. Justin Thomas sounds off. We can't get this done. We have not forgotten what Phil Mickelson and DJ Dustin Johnson, what Brooks Koepka said and did when they were leaving us violating the tour card to take the money to go. We just can't forgive them. Rory McIlroy says, I am exhausted by this crisis. He says the resentment, however, in that locker room has not gone away towards the guys who left. And Scotty Scheffler says, I just want to play golf. I don't want to talk about it anymore. So that's where we are. A lot of complications, PGA versus the LIV. And then in soccer, Manchester United ownership has announced plans to build a $2.6 billion brand new soccer stadium. It'd be the English Premier's Taj Mahal. It would be 100,000 fans, but they're not going to build it at the site of Old Trafford, which has stood since 1910. They're going to move into downtown London and try to build the stadium. And the board of directors of Manchester United is of the opinion, how can we spend $2.6 billion on a new stadium? We're going to get money to invest in the roster because Man U right now, the Red Devils are not what Man U used to be in soccer. They've fallen on really hard times. And the board of directors is questioning the leadership, the CEO of, why would we do this in a new stadium? How are we going to be able to finance our soccer teams, men and women Manchester United teams, and all the support infrastructure leagues that we put out money for? How are we going to do that if we have to pay $2.6 billion for this 100,000 seat shiny new stadium? So a lot of stories there. John, go ahead.
Weren't we just talking about how the fans were revolting?
Yes.
About the higher prices. And so now you got a big stadium coming, but the team in Manchester would play in London. Is that what you're saying? I mean,
Manchester's not close to London last I checked.
No, it's not. No, I mean, it's quite a drive, but Man City would love that. They kind of have the whole thing to themselves. I want to go back to F1 because, when you were talking about McLaren racing, I just did a quick look up on my phone because I was trying to figure out what's McLaren, but it's like one of those exotic $200,000, $300,000 cars, I guess like a Ferrari or something.
That's the one you're going to put in your garage.
Yeah, exactly. But, then it got me thinking about, and like in NASCAR, we know that the cars are like Ford, Chevy, Toyota. Is that a big thing in F1, those manufacturers?
Yeah, manufacturers, but they all operate with the same specs, which is unbelievable financial investment in power, aerodynamics, etc. The number of people employed on an F1 team and the creative intelligence goes into setting up these cars is just absolutely phenomenal. And the computerized stuff they use on race day is just amazing. Everything they gauge and handling and aerodynamics and fuel load. It's a very complicated thing. It's just not getting in a car and going fast. There's all type of scientific things that go into it.
It's not Cale Yarbrough racing.
No, it's not good old boy. Your dad's 1957 Hudson Hornet.
Yeah, and I just love those old like shows where you see the old racing in the early part of the 20th century and the way we've come along. But yeah, I mean, the F1 thing, I'm learning more. We're learning more about soccer, auto racing, a lot of Europe influence. It's truly global sports.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, all things sports. This podcast brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they got materials. You want ideas, they can help you at Dixieline Lumber. John, we got a lot of people stacked up. We're going to try to move through as many as we can on short order here. We call it Fans Forum.
Okay, let's go here to Alan to start us off. He goes, chances King or Cease getting moved now with all the injuries in baseball? Padres looking like a third-place team.
Well, Padres, I think, have the ability to be a second-place team in the National League West. I think Arizona's pretty good. Arizona's really deep in pitching. Padres a little bit thin. I've been taking such crap on social media because one show I talk about the Padres have solved this, and somebody reads between the lines like I'm saying the Padres are going to beat the Dodgers. That's not the case. The Padres solved their pitching thing by getting Nick Pivetta from Boston. So the Padres are rock solid 4 starters. That doesn't mean they're going to beat the Dodgers, but somebody reacts, it's just hammering me. And the next week I'm saying there's holes in this batting order. It's been a lousy spring. And a guy comes back and he sends me a note and says, 1 week you're telling us pennant contender. Next week you're telling us we're in the dumper. No, I'm taking it week by week in the storylines. They solved the pitching crisis at number 4 by getting Pivetta. They're not hitting worth a lick, and they haven't solved who's in left, who's my catcher, and what's my bench bunch look like with 10 days to go. Those are the topics this week compared to where we were a week ago. It's not that I'm saying order your World Series tickets, or I'm not saying they're in last place. I'm just putting topics on the table or the opinion, the story we have to deal with this week. Your friends, your fans are just absolutely amazing, but that's okay.
It's on Instagram, and that's where all the back and forth goes, and it's especially a lot of like Dodger fans who are just giving you crap.
Again.
But it's good. I mean, it's all part of the fun of all of this. But you put yourself out there, one man's opinion. So, of course, you're going to get reaction. That's what it's all about. That's
I don't think the Padres are going to trade either one of those guys. The Padres believe that they have the potential to forge their way into postseason and go deep. Got to stay healthy. I think the plus right now, very strong, 4-man rotation. I don't quite have an answer for the Suarez crisis, but I think they're deep in the bullpen. I think collectively that's a pretty good team, but they're not the Dodgers, and they're in the National League West, and that means second place, and get to October, and then you take your chances and see. Cannot afford any injuries. If they lose any of their 4 starters, they're in a real world of hurt because they don't have any depth behind them.
Well, they're taking 6 teams to the playoffs, right? And so you figure, there's like 7 really good teams. The Padres are one of those 7. So I think you could say they're going to make the playoffs reasonably. But let's just, the Dodger Invitational, it's going to be tough to win the division.
Okay, we move on.
We'll go here to Chris. He goes, Smacks on John. The Dodgers carry 25 players on their roster. How many translators are they allowed to carry? And will anyone have to begin the season interpreting in AAA?
Well, they sent Kim, the Korean second baseman shortstop, to AAA Oklahoma City already. They're working on his mechanics. It's going to take him some time to get used to this level of play and this level of pitching. He had a lot of problems with fastballs. Like I say, he hit only 207 in spring training, and they gave him a lot of ABs along the way. Actually, the roster it's 26 to start the season, not 25. And they brought 31. They were allowed to take 31 players to Japan. And on opening day Tuesday, they will declare who the 26 are that will be on the opening day, quote, active roster. So when you come over here, honk a horn, we'll let you in the gate. You can be with us at 3 a.m., have coffee and donuts and find out who the Dodgers declared as their top 26 players Tuesday when they play the Cubs.
This whole hye-soung Kim thing getting demoted to AAA Oklahoma, that's got to be like a pride thing. Here you are, a star in the Korean baseball. hye-soung Kim made the transition. And granted, his first year it was tough for him.
Rocky.
And now, the other Kim player, hye-soung Kim, he can't pull it off. I mean, he's got to, be a little bit delicate there, emotionally, because he doesn't want to disappoint his fans in Korea.
True. But I think he understands there's an awful lot of talent on this roster.
Well,
look how many super utility guys they have on the Dodger roster. Here's the cultural shock. Do you think anybody speaks Korean in Oklahoma City? Ooh.
Yeah, they'll probably find some. There's a university just down the street there, so there's a little bit of that. But it's going to be fun. Dodgers, Cubs. I mean, it was great that the Padres are there, but I'm kind of happy the Padres have more of I feel like a normal spring training because the previous 2 years have been kind of weird. So let the Dodgers put on the frequent flyer miles, and we're going to find out really how good these guys are.
Oh, I think these guys are pretty good.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Okay, we move on. Thanks for the input, Chris.
Okay, here, go next to Cal, and he goes, afternoon, gents. He goes, John, I'm going to keep asking about the Insiders Group happy hour is going to be held, and saw who wins the Central Division, the Jets, the Avs, the Stars. the finish is going to be crazy.
He's talking about National Hockey League, post trading deadline. Yeah, Winnipeg is loaded. Now, unless something happens from an injury standpoint, and they're just not a one-man team. Winnipeg is deep on their second and third lines, and then he went out and got some grit, and they got Hellebuck, who I think is just the hottest goaltender in the league. But Dallas went out, and Dallas got an accomplice to go with Jason Robertson. I mean, Dallas making that trade to get Renton from Carolina and then signing him. Colorado's retooled their roster. I think Colorado's still a little iffy in goal, but I think the Central Division is going to be really rugged. And by the way, Pacific Division, the Western Conference, NHL, take no prisoners. I still think Edmonton's going to be a force. Calgary is playing really well. Vancouver suddenly believes that maybe they're back into it, and the Kings have a lot of snipers and a lot of firepower. So I think the Western Conference of the NHL playoffs, those best-of-7 series, can be like a war.
Okay, well, I'm temporarily turning off hockey for the next 3 weeks because I've got March Madness basketball to focus on.
No can do. You got to balance it. Pay attention to the whole thing.
Yeah, and you do, which is amazing. I mean, you come in with all these notes. You cover everything. And by the way, Callan, on the whole happy hour thing, I want to do it. We just got to get Lee to want to do it too. And our schedules and personal lives have been a little weird, but I would love to get together and like do it on a Friday night and get a meet and greet with Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. What could be better for sports fans?
Coming to talk to you. No. They just like me. They want to sit with you.
Yeah, no.
Yes, and I agree. We'll do it. John will buy the shots of Jack Daniels for everybody. Callum, thanks for being with us. Next one.
Okay, this is just a quick two-parter here real fast. And Blake says, love you, Saw. Go Rams, go.
Oh, I think the Rams have had a really good offseason, even with the minute number of guys that they've acquired. I mean, I like Cooper Kupp. I hope he gets signed into a good situation. I think he will. I'd love to see him come to the Chargers, but the price is going to have to be right. But I do think Devontae Adams is a better acquisition right now than having Cooper Kupp on the roster. So, the Rams just continue to do a good job, and going to get the Charger defensive tackle is huge. I think so. And they got the draft ahead of them, and they've done a great job from a player personnel standpoint. So front office there, Les Snead and those guys does not get enough credit. They've done a great job.
Well, I think there's a chance for them to win that division, right? Yeah. I mean, the Niners are coming back. The Cardinals are weird, or they're a mess. And what's the third team or the fourth team in there? It's the Seahawks.
Yep. But
you're not sure with Sam Darnold. So, yeah, this is the division for McVay to win.
And I think they got a lot of firepower, and they got a lot of talent. And all those young guys they drafted 2 years in a row all played last season in that push to go as deep as they did into the playoffs. Thanks, Blake.
Okay, keep on moving here. We'll go to Greg, and Greg says, hey, Lee, I think the AFC West potentially could have 4 current Hall of Fame head coaches. Is that possible in your estimation?
Tell you what, you got some smart guys here. I mean, Andy Reid is Andy Reid, a.k.a. next mail-in address will be Hall of Fame. No argument about the success of Jim Harbaugh. We know what Sean Payton is all about. And obviously, Pete Carroll's arrival in Vegas, I would think would have been a catalyst for better players to get there, but I haven't seen that. And that's the thing. The last 3 days, I've just had a hard time looking at my cheat sheet, my list, and saying, God, the Raiders have made some great advances here. I thought Tom Brady and Pete Carroll and John Spytek, the new general manager, that would have been a magnet for players. And they didn't sign any difference makers yet. And they got Geno Smith, who I don't think is a difference maker, quarterback. So Raiders, they got a great coach. But
well, I think the magnet thing works like for Coach Prime at Colorado. But I don't think it works in the NFL. It's show me the money. I mean, that's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. And it just seems to me, I'm just guessing here, but the Brady and what's his name, Spytek, they got a plan, and they got to let go. They got to purge a lot of guys that were unproductive and kind of just hit the reset button.
Yeah, but they got 4 starters on defense that said they wanted to resign, and they didn't sign any of them, and they all went.
Yeah, well, show me the money.
Not only now do you have a black void on the offensive side of the football, you got a lot of holes on the black side of the defense. Not with Max Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz and Christian Wilkins. Their front is good. Their back 7, they don't have any starters that are real established stars that side of the football.
But I do think Greg's right. I think all 4 of them are going to end up being Hall of Famers.
Oh, not a bad call. Not bad call. All right, thanks, Greg.
Okay, here's just a couple of quick ones. So this is from Anthony. He goes, ladies line, looking for Linda Welby's banker.
Linda was great. She's great to work with. I've worked with a lot of really cool people over the course of the years in radio.
Yeah, I mean, Linda Welby is interesting because one of my friends from college is a close friend of Linda Welby, and they both live in Point Loma together. So I see stuff about her on Facebook, but it sounds like she's having a really good life with her family.
Yeah, she worked hard, and she overcame some tough health issues and got healthy. And the cool thing, she walked down that hallway with attitude.
Right on.
She'd tell you what she thought with attitude. Period, exclamation point. This is what Linda Welby thinks.
But she was like, was she the producer for Billy Ray and Kaplan?
Yeah, and then she kind of became third wheel in, and had fun with her. And yeah, she was great.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought she was tremendous.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep on moving. And Tyler just gave us a ton here. I'm just gonna start with one of these. We'll start with the Eagles. And he says, because the Eagles understand financial efficiency, which is exactly what you were talking about with the 49ers. You can't run it back with the same guys. You've got to continue to get younger and cheaper.
But do you do it in a mass defection? That's the thing. I mean, I understand maybe you let go one guy, but, they lost both Josh Sweet and they lost Milton Williams. I would have thought they would have been able to keep at least one of those young guys. I understand Darius Slay. That's a veteran. Therefore, he was making a lot of money, etc. But boy, it's an awful lot of guys gone from that side of the football. That being said, Harry Roseman has done a really good job in terms of player acquisitions, and we'll see what else they do in the draft, or maybe there's going to be some more trades along the way.
Well, Tyler's got like 5 or 6 of these on different teams. We'll try to weave them in if we have time. Let's go here to the Osiders. Chargers went from paying Staley $4 million per year to paying Harbaugh $16 million per year plus new coaching staff. Is it possible cheap Spanos is trying to recoup the money by not spending up to the cap?
Well, he's going to have to spend up to the cap because there was a floor to spending in the National Football League, but he had $93 million when this whole thing started after they parted ways with Joey Bosa. At the end of the day, they got needs, and they've got a really good young quarterback, and now they got a heavy-duty running back in Najee Harris, but that doesn't mean crap because that offensive line is still there, and that offensive line didn't block to protect the quarterback and didn't block by the way, they have not re-signed J.K. Dobbins either. So, yes, you got Najee Harris, but there's no holes because that offensive front, they didn't solve that during the first 3 days of free agency. Maybe there's things coming in the draft, and, they do know how to draft quality players, but God, I would have thought they would have been more active with name players rather than role players and no-name players that they've gotten so far. I don't think they've done anything in free agency that kind of excites me.
Just talking about Spanos, so we've always talked about him as a cheapskate. And so now he's in LA. He's probably got more revenue coming in. I mean, because they could charge more ticket prices, and they're still selling out SoFi, aren't they?
Yeah, to all Packer fans, Steeler fans.
Everybody's money is green.
Yep.
So, but it does make me wonder though, like why wasn't it Goodell that was giving him pressure? They said, you got to spend money on a legit coach this year.
Yeah, he did. I was told that Goodell told Spanos, we got you into L.A. We propped you up in L.A. When your stadium measure failed in L.A., we negotiated the deal to get you into the Kroenke Dome. You need to do a better job running this franchise. And obviously, when that got Harbaugh, and Harbaugh had a good season. Luckily, they played a really substandard schedule. I'm sorry. They did win 11 games, but there's 7 losses. They got punched in the mouth by every good team they played.
Yeah, they did.
So let's be realistic here. And now it's lesser roster this afternoon than it was the last day of the season. And they had $93 million of cap space. So I don't buy it right now. There's still time to trade. There's still time, obviously, in the draft to get the right kids and hit the jackpot, have another good draft. But it's not the same football team.
Now, weren't there like financial problems with the Spanos family and people suing people? And
well, his sister, Dia.
And there was a lot of debt or something like that.
Yeah, Dean had to keep taking out loans. And I think they're probably more profitable now. Dia sued. It's a misappropriation of money. The guy's just a bad businessman, which I firmly believe. They eventually found a buyer to buy her out. It's the owner of the Detroit Pistons bought Dia Spanos' shares. But he's a silent partner. He's not making any decisions in the operation of the Charger team. But Dia got her money, and that segment of the family was moved out. They're in a good situation with Harbaugh, and I think a good player personnel guy in Ortiz, and they got a quarterback. But you got to get more players around that quarterback right now.
What's the deal? Alex Spanos names one kid Dean and the other one Dia, like DEA, right?
Yeah, that was her name.
So I mean, there's got to be some significance to DEA within the Spanos family.
I have no interest in the Spanos family tree, amongst other no interest in anything Spanos is resolved to.
Okay, let's keep moving. We'll go here to Showtime LA. He goes, hey, Lee, I'm kind of worried about Blake Trinan. He has an 11 ERA through 5.2 innings. Having to go multi-innings in the postseason is catching up to him, I think.
It's kind of hard to say because he's also had some good outings in the spring. But remember, I'd be a little bit concerned because they're down 2 relievers. They're going to start the season on the disabled list. Evan Phillips is not going to be there to start. And then who's the other one that had the forearm problem? Michael Kopech. They're throwing bullpens, but they're not ready to start the season. So they're going to be down 2 relief pitchers to start, but they do have this myriad of other groups of guys there that'll try to get them through. I have not heard word one that Trinan is having health problems. So therefore, maybe it's just bad outings in the spring and they'll dial it in. But they do have Alex Vessier. They've got other closers and setup guys. Kirby Yates is part of that equation. So, I mean, they are really deep in relief pitchers.
They got all-stars in every roster slot.
Including the guys on the DL.
Yeah, but, Trinan is a special pitcher.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and his ball moves very different than a lot of other players. So I wish the guy well, but I'm not, breaking out the violin for the Dodgers right now.
Okay, let's move on. A couple more before we go to social media.
Okay, let's go here to Hector. And he goes, Lee, do you think this will be the year the McSorley curse on Canada ends, like Winnipeg perhaps? Or do the Jets have no chance in Hellebuyck? Was it Hellebuyck?
No, Hellebuyck is the cornerstone goaltender.
Okay, see, I'm a hockey novice.
Rookie.
Yes, I am.
Connor Hellebuyck, if you get a hot goaltender in the playoffs, that carries you. But Winnipeg is really deep. Winnipeg is more than Shoffley. It's more than Kyle Connor. I mean, it's Gabe Velarde. They are 3.5 lines deep of guys who can score goals. And now, obviously, at the trade deadline, they added grit. They added a gritty winger, which I thought they lacked. They added a gritty player on defense. I think Winnipeg is a real dangerous team to play. Granted, Edmonton is Edmonton with Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, but Edmonton's got problems. Their goaltending, Stuart Skinner, is not the same as it's been in the past. LA Kings, to me, are scary. They're not scoring goals right now, but the Kings, I think you got to pay attention to. Vancouver and Calgary. Calgary's young. Vancouver thinks they've got enough. I don't see it. I don't think they have enough goal scoring at all, and they've had injuries in goals. So, but right now, Winnipeg is just, they're far beyond better than anybody on the Western Conference of the NHL. And as long as there's nobody who goes down in the playoffs, I think Winnipeg's a real deal. And that'd be phenomenal. The interesting thing, I thought about this during the week. A year ago this time, one of the topics we were talking about? Small market Canada, Winnipeg in trouble. They're struggling to get 13,000 in the building.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about that. Yeah.
It's a small regional franchise in Winnipeg. Yeah, it's the only thing in Manitoba, but Manitoba is a farming province. And look where they are now. They have the best hockey team in the National Hockey League. I mean, what a job that management team has done. And now Winnipeg is a hot ticket.
Yeah.
In 1 year.
Well, I'm happy for those guys. And you have a relationship with the Winnipeg folks, and they all come on our show. So, yeah, good on Winnipeg. I'm rooting for them. But, this is a little bit of a tangent. All this Canada, USA stuff that's going on right now. And the Canada has a new prime minister. And he basically said, we're going to fight this whole thing. And he went on to say, because, in hockey, we'll win. And I was thinking about this curse, because like Canada hasn't won the cup in a long time, but he was clearly referring to the Four Nations.
Yeah. And you didn't correctly word it, because I heard the speech, because the wife is Canadian.
Oh yeah.
And I heard the speech of, we don't lose. We will stand up for Canada. We don't lose in hockey either.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah. You got it nailed. So, yeah, it's weird, though, that curse has lasted. It's been, since the turn of the century?
Yep. No. Well,
was it like in the 1990s?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But there's so many great players have come from abroad. It's a global game. Everybody's got access to talent, and there's so many stars that we've developed. U.S. hockey has developed stars, and then we got everybody who came from Russia, and everybody came from Europe. The Scandinavian countries. So many great players in the league. So everybody's got access to these.
Yeah, but Canadian hockey fan is probably damn it, we invented this sport.
Don Cherry is apoplectic. Okay, we move on. A couple more here before we get to social media.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of people, new folks here, or people that haven't been here in a while. And this is Josh. This is a new guy. I hope the reason the Chargers are not spending in free agency is because they're putting together a major trade draft package.
Well, they drafted really well last season, and they do have draft picks. So we'll just see if they can hit the jackpot and get 3 or 4 really quality players, because they wound up, I think, with 3 or 4 starters this past year. But that being said, they got a problem at center and at both guard positions, and they've not addressed it. I do like Najee Harris. I think that's a tough guy running back who's a heavy-duty, durable guy. He's not the explosiveness of J.K. Dobbins, does not have the injury history that Gus Edwards had. Najee Harris is a really good football player. Now, they signed him a 1-year deal worth, I want to say, about $9 million, which is, that's pretty pricey. But they're not going to be able to run the football if they don't fix this offensive line problem inside, and they still got to protect that quarterback. And by the way, maybe it's coming in the draft. I don't like their wide receiver core. Mike Williams is okay, but I like Josh Palmer better than like an aging Mike Williams with an injury history there too. So we'll see. I mean, this roster's not set. There's still more transactions to occur.
Well, when you were blasting out, 176 transactions,
yes,
and the Chargers missed out on a lot of guys, and we were wondering where they're going to spend the money. And then we thought, okay, maybe they're getting guys in the draft. But then I had forgotten about this, the trade draft pick, package deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd imagine they're having those conversations
sure.
now, and where are the Chargers in the draft? They're somewhere in the middle, right?
22nd.
22nd. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what kind of a would they be able to trade up?
Yeah, if you take my 22nd plus a 3rd round pick and get me into the top 10. Although to go from 22 to 10, that's a pretty big jump. A lot of teams don't do that.
Or would they do the opposite and flip down, to a lower, like to the not have a 1st round pick and get another high price veteran?
Well, that or trade out at 22 and get a 2nd and a 3rd, which gives you multiple 2s, multiple 3s. But the difference between a 1st round pick and a mid-2nd and a mid-3rd, talent-wise, pretty different.
Oh, yeah, obviously. So, to be a fly on the wall in that conference room with the whiteboard and their plan A, B, and C, that'd be really fun.
Concur. All right, thanks. Hope you become a regular, Josh. Tell your friends. Let's move on here.
Okay, let's go to another new guy here. Dan in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Suarez has been awful.
Something's not right. I hope he does not have arm problems, but his location, I think the number, I wrote about it on my website. If you just go check my best 15 minutes in sports, I think he's only pitched 3 1/3 innings so far this spring. He's been knocked around. He pitched 5 times, been knocked out 3 of the 5 times he's pitched. I think in 3 innings, he's given up 8 runs, 10 hits, I think 4 walks. He's kind of been battered. Now, I don't know if he's experimenting with stuff. There's no indication that he's hurt, but boy, he's not right now. And this is supposed to be your all-star closer.
I was watching one of the games like a few days ago, and I think Scanlon was talking about it, how he's had to rework his mechanics so his upper half and his bottom half are more tightly synchronized. And they were slightly off last year, and they've been able to kind of fix it. And when they do, the fastball has a lot more life. And it makes me wonder, because remember he threw like 70 fastballs in a row.
Yeah.
Like, was that last year or the year before last? Because when it's working, it's almost unhittable. So when it's sort of an average 98 mile an hour fastball, they're going to hit it, especially if they know it's coming, because his off speed wasn't really developed.
Yeah. He's had stretches where he's had his 2nd and 3rd pitches have been pretty dynamic. And he's had these other stretches where he doesn't control them and it's become just a fastball guy. I think what worries me, I think there's probably truism that there's a flaw. That's what the entire offseason is, that you're working on that. It's not like he doesn't pick up a baseball in November and December. They do all this stuff at these pitching academies to work on the flaws. He's got a flaw with 10 days to go in the season. He still hasn't solved it. That's a warning sign to me. That's a problem.
It is, but he came, he wasn't a highly drafted guy. He came through the back channels.
He earned his way here.
And he earned it. But yeah. So hopefully his pass isn't catching up with him. Hopefully he can figure this out, because when he's rolling, he's good.
We move on.
Let's go to XX Revolution. Vladimir Guerrero, not even taking $500 million, and most likely probably not returning back to the Jays after this season. Jays want to spend less and get decent for less, like 2015 and 17.
It's a problem with Guerrero because they offered him significant money and he said no. He wanted a 14-year deal, no deferred money, full no trade clause, 14 years. It would have taken him to age 39. I wouldn't give Vlad Guerrero a contract through age 39. Look how big he is. Sometimes he looks pretty portly to me. So what's he going to be like at age 32, 33 in terms of physical abilities? What's going to be like at age 38, 39? I think that's why Toronto just said, no, we're not going to give you a contract that guarantees all those dollars till age 39. You want to do a 7-year deal? We'll pay a state-of-the-art $50 million per year, but we're not going to do this to age 39. That's the big issue. He'll go on the open market and you'll probably get it. I don't know that he'll get a 14-year contract from anybody else because I'm sure the Cubs or the Red Sox are the same opinion. We're not doing this contract going to pay you to age 39.
It's too bad Peter Seidler's not still alive.
Yeah.
He was the one giving out those long-term deals. Yeah, if I'm the Blue Jays, I'm not doing that. But you can't blame him for trying. Because that's the kind of contract that Manny Machado has, that Xander Bogaerts has, and he can make a case for it. And yeah, he is, he's a little more chunky. I think that's why he's playing first rather than third.
I think I see him. I think of Cecil Fielder.
Yeah, or Pablo Sandoval.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep on going. And another one from Tyler, which I thought was fun. He goes, you guys are complete nerds about sports, and I respect it.
Oh, we are not nerds. We know what we know, and we have opinions about what we know. I apologize in advance. We do sports talk the way it should be done. It's been pretty successful. That's why you're hooked on this podcast. Thanks, Ty.
Yeah. Tyler had all those other comments too. And by the way, here we go. Richard, he says, will the NCAA stop giving special treatment to teams from bigger conferences, robbing more deserving teams like USD who have had better record and earned a higher seed?
So you're talking about UCSD, not USD.
He must be.
Yeah. No, well, they win the Big West. They earn their way in. Now, if there are some shockers along the way, then the teams that are on the bubble, that's a problem. If a top seed, which had a good season, gets knocked out in their finals of the conference tournament, and somebody comes out of nowhere and wins a conference tournament, well, that top team in that conference will probably still get a spot, which takes away one of the lower spots for somebody like UCSD. But I don't think it's a problem because I think the Tritons are going to win via the Big West, and then they'll get chosen. Might be a 10th seed, might be 11th seed. We'll go from there.
Yeah, well, this is why the tournament should be expanded.
Okay.
Yeah. Why not? Again, let's go to 96. I mean, I'm serious about this. But yeah, there are those situations. Like if UCSD, stubs their toe in the Big West tournament, they ain't getting in as a at-large bid.
Somebody last year had 32 wins and didn't make it. I don't know if it was the University of Evansville Aces, or maybe it was Indiana State. Somebody had 32 wins, didn't win the tournament, their conference tournament, and got left out in the street.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking. Now they wound up going to the NIT, and I think got to the finals of the NIT at Madison Square Garden, which is kind of cool. But
there was also the one year the Aztecs won like
30-2, but that was
no, they won like 24, 26 games and didn't make it because they had a certain number of bad losses. So, I like the fact that they give guaranteed bids to these smaller conferences. I think that's wonderful. But he's right. I mean, sometimes you'll have like a 500 record in the Big Ten, and then they're in the tournament, and it's kind of meh.
Somebody last night in one of the mid-major conferences pulled off an upset and won their conference championship game. They're 16-17, and they're going to the tournament.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, we want to see that, but they just need to expand it. I mean, when they went from 64 to 68, it wasn't that big of a deal. We got these Dayton play-in games, but John Rothstein on Twitter is constantly saying, don't expand the tournament.
Yeah, but everybody else is saying it's going to 74, maybe by next year.
That's a weird 74?
Yeah.
Why the 74? Why wouldn't you go to 96?
I have no idea.
So there's going to be some more buys in that first round.
That's where we are. All right, let's go to social media. Got a ton of people here who've got some things to say that we don't necessarily agree with. But that's okay.
All right. There's other guys that are in fans forum in the chat as well. Let's go here and let's talk a little bit about the Padres and reacting to Hacksaw here. And this is from Richard. He goes, "Will the NCAA?"
No,
excuse me. I got the wrong one here. Bear with me a moment.
I got so many topics on the table. John has so many people stacked up in the fans forum chat box.
Plus, I have the social media stuff. Yeah. Okay, this is the one from St. City Ace. He goes, wasn't there a post no more than a week ago where Lee said the Padres are ready, locked, and ready to go because they picked up Pivetta and they had their stars coming back a week later, and it sounds like the ship is sinking.
No, I was dealing with the acquisition of Pivetta and what it meant to the Padres in terms of firming up the front four in the rotation. This week, we're dealing with all these guys hitting 111. You got to cover all the stuff. Did I say they're going to the World Series? No, hit the reset button. I've never, ever said that. I just said Acquisition of the Red Sox pitcher solidifies the rotation. We still need answers in left field, catcher, and the bench bunch. We're 10 days out, and we still don't really have very many answers from that other group. You need to postmark this. We will do a baseball preview just before the start of the regular season. We're going to go division by division, and you're going to have the chance to hear what I have to say and then a chance to respond. But we haven't made those choices yet. That's coming probably the Thursday before the season starts.
Yeah, everyone's got receipts on things that you've said in the past, you know, and, but, you know, in this case, you know, there's good weeks we're feeling encouraged. There's other weeks we're kind of a little bit glass half empty. And we've been in a glass half empty for a few weeks now with the hitting.
You're in a glass half empty since 24 shutout innings in a row against the Dodgers.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Which should have been a World Series appearance.
Yeah, I have no comeback for that.
Okay, we move on. Thanks for being with us.
Okay, let's go here. A little more baseball talk. And this is from Reynoso. He says, Pete Rose needs to be in the Hall of Fame and Shoeless Joe should follow him. As for Bonds and Clemens, I thought that they were eligible. They just never got the votes.
Exactly. They were eligible and the 10-year limit expired because of who they were. But again, you can't tell the history of baseball without Bonds and home runs and Clemens and wins and strikeouts and all that. You put an asterisk on the plaque, maybe you do it. But the Pete Rose thing is a little bit different because they bet on the games. And his memorabilia is in the Hall. And if you let him in, despite what he actually did, then what are you going to do with Shoeless Joe from 1919? Because, yeah, he took money. He didn't throw games. He hit in the 360s in that World Series, but he was dumb enough to take the money. It's a real tough call for the commissioner's office because they have to make the decision eligible list or continued ineligibility. If he's on the eligible list, they reinstate him, then he can be on the Hall of Fame ballot. And then the Hall of Fame people have to make their decision. Then the baseball writers who vote on these guys have to make their decision. So there's 3 different layers there have to occur.
Well, there's other guys that are in the Hall that have taken steroids. I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing here, you know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Mark
but like
McGwire didn't get in. Sammy Sosa didn't get in. And they were all in the Mitchell report and the Dow, you know, the Mitchell report.
Who was the first baseman for the Astros? It wasn't Biggio. It was one of the killer bees. What was the other guy? Bagwell. That guy looked like he was on the juice. Just like,
but looking and having his name show up in the report, it never did.
Yeah, I know. But there's guys that are in the Hall that have taken it. So it just sometimes the sports writers can just be obstinate. You know, they're like, screw that guy.
In a lot of cases, some of it's deserved.
Yeah, it is, I guess. But, you know, I agree with him. You know, Rose, Shoeless Joe, let him in. And, yeah, if Bonds and Clemens didn't get elected, well, then they didn't get elected.
Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's talk hockey in San Diego. This is with Tacky Green. He goes, that's a cool little venue where the Gulls play. I think San Diego would be a great place for NHL hockey, better than Utah. Just my opinion.
Yeah, Salt Lake City has really embraced it. It's become a very good regional franchise. NHL is a hot commodity right now, but this is an old arena. You know, I don't think you could survive in modern day NHL hockey without skyboxes and all that. I don't think you could survive with 12,000 seats, and that's what the old sports arena is. We're going to get a new venue somewhere down the road. They say upwards of 13,000, but even that to me is not big enough. And then where's the NHL going to expand to? You know, there's a lot of talk about Quebec City, which has built that new Olympic arena there. And there's other places, you know, they're talking Houston, which is vibrant in terms of population growth. And they're talking about trying to go back to Atlanta for a 3rd time. Tough call. The league is not ready to expand. The league might add 2 more. I just don't see the Kings and the Ducks voting to add a 3rd team here. And we don't have a facility. So we can't say, let's get hockey immediately because we don't have a place to play in.
Yeah. But San Diego's still bummed by losing the Chargers,
Sure.
the NFL team here. But, you know, the sports arena, I'm just still shocked that it's still standing because they hosted the NCAA Final Four like in 75, I think it was. And back then, John Wooden said the place was a dump. We should never come back here again. Mm-hmm. And that was, holy crap, that was 50 years ago.
Well, it's been renovated, repainted. It's been fixed. It's a nice facility for an age facility, but it's not modern day NBA, NHL size.
No, not at all. So hopefully they build this new, but even that new arena may not even be up to NHL spec, right? They might only host like 12,000 rather than
13,000, but it's more of an entertainment center than it is going to be for Major League Sports because
Exactly.
I don't think we have access to get Major League Sports. sadly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'd have to have an arena that got at least 20,000 to get an NHL team, right?
No, probably, I'd say 15 to 17.
Okay. All right. Well, they're not there. That's not the plan.
Exactly. Okay, carry on.
Okay, carry on. Let's go here. This was an interesting topic from Mr. Madman. He says, it's not great, but if the World Series has to get canceled to get a salary cap salary floor, it's worth it. The sport is going to die without it.
Why would you ever damage a sport that is at the highest peak in terms of attendance, TV ratings, and gross revenue? Why would you do anything to stop that? So therefore, I'm not in favor of a lockout or shutdown. You sit there and you negotiate. You know, I wrote a column on my website. You need to check my website. I write all this creative stuff every day. I wrote a column about Tony Clark. They got 2 years before the collective bargaining agreement expires. You go talk to the lawyers of the National Football League and find out how their CBA works in terms of revenue sharing and what's the best way to do it to include everybody. And that should also include a floor to spending. That's the way you solve it, is you come up with this creative stuff. You don't stand there and shout on the street corner all these negatives about the owners. You find a creative way in the next collective bargaining agreement to do it. You know, and there's other things I got to do. John read my column and he kind of agreed. We need an international draft.
Yeah.
We obviously need to police the international draft because the federations are so different. And we still have cheating and corruption in the Caribbean. We got drug problems. You got the Mexican thing where they won't let them across the border. You got the Japanese situation, who's a free agent, who shouldn't be a free agent. You got China's federation. You got the Taiwan, the Korean federation. Each federation has such a different set of standards to operate by. That's complex to do. But that's what you got the next 2 years to do, is to come up with a creative way to make all this thing work, because you want to kill the golden cow. Right now, this thing is phenomenal in terms of popularity, attendance, TV ratings, revenue streams, and the pace of play has just invited more fans to come and enjoy a night at the ball yards. That's what I would do.
It's my golden cow. It's a golden goose, isn't it?
Yeah.
The golden calf that's biblical reference right there. You know, just to talk about this for a minute, obviously the threatening the World Series, we go back to the 1990s. They had the strike. That was the year that Gwynn almost hit 400 to get 394. And then baseball suffered from that. People were angry. And then, you know, we had McGuire and Sosa in 1998 and the home run chase. And do you think that baseball really, I mean, the people in the front office, did they really know the juicing was going on? Were they just looking the other way?
They were looking the other way and people wouldn't address it. And then Kevin Towers, then general manager of the Padres, said, there's cheating in baseball. We need to do something about steroids. So he said that, and he took a lot of crap. And then you had Donald Fear, the head of the union, standing on the street corner saying, you can't violate a player's privacy by drug testing them. And they fought that fight for years. And then they finally got drug testing because there was such an outcry from the public. And then that involved steroids, and then it elevated, and that involved HGH, and that elevated, and that involved testing for PEDs. So they've really cleaned this thing up a great deal. But it was a terrible fistfight from the first words from the late Kevin Towers through the post-Donald Fear era before the union finally got on board and said, okay, we're going to allow this for the good of the game.
Well, you know, the game was pretty exciting when everyone was on the juice, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it distorts the game. Sometimes it makes you wonder, why not just let them take it? The baseball would be crazy. People's arms would literally be falling off.
They are.
Yeah. But are the drug rules across all the sports more or less consistent in your opinion? Or is there one league that really is harsh or looks the other way?
No, I don't think anybody looks the other way. It's the question is, the international venue makes it a lot more complicated now because the Caribbean has still got a problem with steroids and PEDs because that's an educational thing, in addition to a right versus wrong thing, in addition to a money thing. And you get people coming from all types of environments off the dirt farms that are ball players that are trying to get off the islands, and they'll do anything from a major league standpoint. And there's a lack of education too. They don't know. And they're dealing with corrupt agents that are delivering them and taking all their money. It's just really a messy situation globally for baseball to solve. It's not going to be solved in 15 days. I'll guarantee you that.
You know, Hollywood stars are on the juice. I mean, you see, like, Sylvester Stallone.
We're talking baseball here.
Yeah.
Why are you taking us off on a tangent?
All right, let's keep moving. Let's go here to this is Talking Chargers with Seapolt. He goes, hey, Brandon Staley was initially loved by the players, but he was so receptive to their feedback, and look where it got them. Still riding with Harbaugh.
Oh, he's talking about the player vote last week that was released that all these players voted Jim Harbaugh as the 26th or 32nd coach in the league because they're tired of his speeches and that he wouldn't listen to the players, etc. Harbaugh's still a great coach. He has a good track record. He does wear people out along the way, and that's probably got something to do with the response. But we'll just have to see as this thing goes forward. Can a coach be flexible? You have to learn on the job. Staley didn't have a hell of a lot of great players, and he had a young rookie quarterback trying to learn on the job, and he was learning on the job, and I thought he failed miserably along the way. But we'll just see next, year or two of Harbaugh. I hope they give him more players because I don't quite think he's got as good a team right now as he had that was in the playoffs.
Well, Staley's bouncing around. Isn't he now working for Kellen Moore in New Orleans?
Just named defensive coordinator after got bounced by the Chargers, went to San Francisco. No, Frisco or the Rams? Frisco. Went to San Francisco.
But he was with the Rams before the Chargers.
Yeah. Went to San Francisco for 1 year as a, quote, defensive consultant for Shanahan. Got hired by Kellen Moore. That's odd because Staley was head coach. Kellen Moore was his offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Now Kellen Moore is head coach, and he's brought Staley back into the loop, and we'll see what Staley does.
I don't think either one of those guys shaves.
No.
They're both so young.
Not during the course of the regular season.
Kellen Moore always got a lot of crap as an offensive coordinator. I wonder how he's going to do.
We'll find out. I mean, he did well in Philadelphia with talent. He did well prior to he got here. Here was okay, but then he was in Dallas, and he did well statistically, and then he left. Mike McCarthy came on board. So interesting. So you got to have players. You can be an X and O's guru and all that, but you got to have players too.
See, we're having a conversation at the same time. You're looking at your computer, probably trying to get an update on the Aztec game, right?
My battery went dead.
It just went dead. You could talk sports and read sports at the same time.
You should have seen me multitasking my ass the first 3 days of free agency in the NFL. I thought my head was going to fall off my shoulders.
I could picture it.
Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this podcast. We're here Mondays at 1:30, Thursdays at 1:30. We do sports talk the way it should be done. Podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers. Please go to their website, dixieline.com, see have all the things they have to offer to you. Selection Sunday coming up. We'll be talking about the pairings with our Monday bonus podcast back here at 1:30. Podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, the place to go when you got projects. John, have yourself a great sports weekend. We will see you come Monday at 1:30.
Come Monday, it's going to be all right.
And you have yourself a great sports weekend, too. Thanks for joining our team on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.